Right now, canals up and down the country are in crisis. They're at breaking point, quite literally. This is the very beautiful Kennet and Avon Canal, and certainly falls into that category. And you might be thinking a problem that affects the canals doesn't really affect everybody, just the people that live and work on it. But this is a problem which would very much affect you and I. Allow me a short period of time to explain why. Now, when you search up canals in crisis in the UK, well, you get an idea of what the problem physically looks like, how it's affecting people on the canal and work and live around it, but you don't get an idea of the bigger picture. I'm going to go and take a deep dive into this today, but to do that we need some help from a friend who first alerted me to this problem. He's just down here somewhere along the canal. Right, I found my mate, and it turns out he's got two hats on today.
So I'm both a projects officer, West Berkshire Council Public Rights of Way, but also, on a personal level, I work encouraging people to get out into the countryside. But sometimes there are insurmountable issues to get over, and there's one coming up just here.
I can see a problem straight away.
You cannot get past this in a wheelchair. Yeah, and what's even more interesting is someone's actually taken matters into their own hands here and done an unauthorised repair, but by some luck hasn't gone through the electricity cable, the water pipe, the sewerage pipe, or indeed the internet backbone that runs down through here.
Right, Alan, when I was a kid, I was dragged to that pub there, and the most exciting thing in the world was when that went off. I was a big train fan as a kid, so the thing went off and I ran across the car park as this 8-year-old kid getting super excited. Memories of Kimpbury, bizarrely. There we go. A charity called the Canals and River Trust look after the vast majority of the network of canals in the UK. Right. Now, before I met with Alan today, I had the chance to chat with a few of their members of staff and volunteers to look at some of the significant works that they're undertaking. It's funny how today's chat ties in really well with these issues that Alan is addressing here, albeit on a quite different scale, but not the one you'd expect.
So at Cane Hill we've got a mixture of different types of lock gates. At the top end gates you'll notice they're actually steel gates, composite gates with steel and timber liners, and the bottom gates, what we're replacing this week, they're all oak gates. So typically they last about 20 to 25 years only, so they need replacing on that, at least at that cycle, in order to keep the canal open.
The expense of the engineering sometimes is phenomenal. They do a very good job a lot of the time, but it seems to be like there's not enough money to do it correctly at times. Sometimes even finessing, like here we've got a bridge which is, you know, obviously well maintained, but there's a bit missing here.
Yeah, and the rest. There's a bit missing there, there's a bit missing down here. Yeah, we're looking at some extremely large projects which need doing clearly, otherwise the canal's out of use. But perhaps a lot of the smaller ones, a lot of the dangerous ones that you don't perceive to be a danger, are kind of missed. Because look at this again, if I was coming along here with a pushchair, a bike, a wheelchair, for goodness sake, you couldn't traverse that there.
And there isn't a requirement to cover equalities, you know, regarding sort of enabling people to access.
The context for that is the very challenging funding situation that the Trust faces. We have more pressure on our costs with more work to do year on year, the impact of more extreme weather events adding to our costs, and the government has announced that our grant will be reducing over time quite significantly.
But that's right, Alan, that's a metre away from the actual towpath.
It is. I mean, I'm not quite sure, but it looks like there has been a repair done here. And the biggest problem we've got along the whole canal is crayfish. They burr underneath, and the whole lot just collapses. You could be trying to service the side of your boat and the bank gives way and you could slide down between the bank and the boat. Like we as members of the public, we're walking side by side and we're like, Paul, where have you gone? Because you know, boff, you know, you've had a bank collapse. And these are things that are very hard to like survey. I can't you know, we really can't blame the CRT for this.
Indeed, this is something the CRT seem to take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, so we definitely see the canals as being just like super highways connecting nature across the country. They're largely undisturbed. I mean, obviously we've got people using the boats and the towpath, but we do try to keep a strip of grassland beside the towpath. Where we can, we let the wildflowers come up and flourish. We try to keep some reed fringe where that's appropriate. Like you can see around the side pound behind me, we've got last year's reed growth. And we don't need to cut that, so next year the fresh reed growth will come up, but the old stands will be there too, which gives the early nesting birds something to build their nests into. So we're always thinking about these conscious choices.
So what exactly are we missing here?
You can see in this section here, it's usage by people. It's worn it down, it's become grooved, because it's actually worn down to the teram, the non-woven membrane, which was put down when it was last repaired.
We've taken the old gates out, put 2 brand new gates in. This sort of project we get given 6 weeks. That's to cater for anything that we don't know underneath the water as well. But yeah, it's usually about 6 weeks we can do a set of gates.
But this is a problem as well, because what's this?
Oh, this is fibre optic.
Right.
This is the internet backbone that runs the whole length of the canal, from sort of London through to Bristol.
And why does it do that? Why on a canal?
I think it was a good direct route. CRT probably make a good income off it, and
I see.
And why not? This traditional link between, well, first you had the Great West Way, then the canal, then the railway, and now the internet.
There is a really good buzz from everyone we spoke to on the day within the CRT, from the staff members to the volunteers.
Like I said, I've been here for 20 years this year. I love the job because every day is different.
So I'm really lucky to work for the Canal and River Trust. I really love my job, and I'm really fortunate to work for a charity who really put nature at one of the core values of the things that we do.
And it always just makes me think back to the days when this was being built, and the army of the navvies that dug all of these structures out of the landscape to create this incredible feat of the waterways.
They're all doing vital work to keep things moving, but it feels like there is one thing missing to push this forward and help with some of the issues that Alan is raising.
So we're already suffering because after the years of high inflation there was no adjustment, so we've had a real term reduction of around 30% in our grant already, and that will increase over the future, so that by the mid-2030s we'll be looking at a shortfall of sort of 50 million or so every year.
Well, I think it probably always, as ever, comes down to money and funding. Again, the CRT do an amazing job with all the engineering. You know, this canal's open they've had so much bad weather. Perhaps, though, this canal doesn't quite get the attention it needs as a long-distance route.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be funding, ring-fence funding, to make this a proper national easy access trail. It's got such potential and runs through such beautiful countryside. We've forgotten the lessons we learned during COVID about how important it is to get outside and get some fresh air for mental and physical health.
But it's really vital that everyone who values our canals helps us by contributing whatever they can to support our work. So my plea to everyone watching this is to do what you can to sign up as a friend of the Trust or to make a donation that would help us to do the vital work to keep canals open.